Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernest Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. There's a really underrated college football game on Friday night between the Illinois Fighting Illini traveling on the road to the Kansas Jayhawks. I'm going to preview and predict whether I think Illinois will win on the road against Kansas, or whether I think Kansas will hold serve at home and beat the Fighting Illini. But then there is a really good game here on Friday night between the Illinois Fighting Illini and the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, if this game was about 3 or 4 years ago, this probably would not be a game a lot of people were interested in because Illinois wasn't that great. They were more of a 4-8, 5-7 type team. And the Kansas Jayhawks were abysmal, usually hanging around the 1-11 to 2-10 mark. And it would still be a game that I'm sure some college football fans will be interested in because it's a Friday night game between two power conference teams. Even if they were both bad, people would still watch. But both of these teams are vastly improved from where they were a few years ago. And it's because of their head coaches, Bret Bielema at Illinois and Lance Leipold at Kansas. And you look at Illinois, they were really good last year, almost winning the Big Ten West and making the Big Ten championship game. They did fall a hair short of that goal, but they had a great team with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, Chase Brown at running back, and then you had Sidney Brown, Devon Witherspoon in the backfield. They had a lot of good players, but they've still got a solid core returning. They got Reggie Love at running back. He had a good game last week in Illinois' narrow win over the Toledo Rockets, 30-28. Now, I know that they barely won that game, but Toledo did win the MAC last year, so that is a bit excusable. Still a little alarming that Illinois barely won that game, but they did start their season 1-0, and they also brought in Luke Altmeyer, the transfer quarterback from Ole Miss. He actually had a solid game as well. And then you talk about Isaiah Williams, their spark plug player that used to be their quarterback that now is at wide receiver, and he plays all over the field. So Illinois has some talent. Their defense is not as potent as it was last year. It just did not look like that in that game against Toledo. But again, got to give Toledo credit because they are a solid team. But I do feel like Illinois has a shot to be a bowl eligible team for the second straight season. But this game is at Kansas, and Kansas is much improved. Like I've mentioned before, Lance Leipold's done an incredible job with the program in a short amount of time. And Jalon Daniels, their star quarterback, he did not even play last week for Kansas in their win over Missouri State. Jason Bean played, but the great thing about Kansas is that Jason Bean is a really solid quarterback. He doesn't have the upside of Jalon Daniels, but Jason Bean can hold his own. He went out there and beat Texas a couple years ago in a shootout, so he is very capable. But Jalon Daniels, he missed the week 1 game for Kansas, but he should be back in this game, which will be huge for Kansas. And they got Devin Neal back at running back, Lawrence Arnold and Luke Grimm at wide receiver. Kansas has a solid football team, and their defense, despite the fact that it's not one of the better defenses in college football, they still gave up a lot of points last season. It is improved from where they were a few years ago when they were a bad football team. Now Kansas and Illinois are both very respectable football teams. This is a Friday night game, 7:30 ESPN2, so the crowd's going to be really solid for Kansas. They've gotten a lot more fans to fill up the stands since Kansas football started to win. They made a bowl last year, but they fell short in winning the game. But I do think that the Kansas Jayhawks have a great shot to win. When I was looking at this game at the beginning of the season, I initially was really heavily favoring Illinois to win by at least 10-14. But looking at both of these teams now, and granted, again, Illinois played a better opponent than Kansas did in week 1, I'm starting to shift the other way. Kansas is at home, again, at night. The crowd's going to be wild, and I don't know if Luke Altmeyer and his first major start on the road for the Illinois Fighting Illini and a team that's nowhere near as good as it was last year, especially on defense, will they be able to stop Jalon Daniels if he is healthy, if he's going out there and balling out, throwing for 400 yards like he's capable of and scrambling around? I'm not sure. And even if he's not up to standards because he's not completely healthy, then Lance Leipold can just bring in Jason Bean. And again, he is a very capable quarterback as well. Their offense is really solid. Their defense isn't as bad as it used to be in the past. And Illinois' offense isn't the most potent in the world. I don't know. This game could go either way for me. Again, I initially was leaning Illinois, but I actually think I'm going to go with the Kansas Jayhawks to beat the Illinois Fighting Illini 28-24. I think this is going to be one of the most underrated games of week 2 in college football. A lot of people are going to miss it if they don't pay attention to Friday night football, but I think that the Kansas Jayhawks are going to move to 2-0, and Illinois is barely going to fall short on the road and fall to 1-1, but it's going to be a really solid game. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think that Illinois or Kansas will win this football game and why. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.